Morning, you lovely people. Hey, Jackie in the garden. I'm sat in the car today because, to do this video because we've all woke up. Well, I woke up yesterday, sore throat, swollen glands, not feeling too good. My son hasn't been well for the last 3 days, and my wife isn't very well, so they coughing in the house. So if I cough out, please excuse me. Don't feel too good. The video today is about the hierarchy of money and how people with money, most people with money, with a lot of money, look down on people without so much money. And it's basically because of the hierarchy. Someone with money, they automatically think that they have a hierarchy, a higher level over you. So they look down at you because they think, well, I've earned all this money. Why can't you earn all this money that I have? Well, it can be for a number of reasons. And one is basically because it's not that people with no money don't try, except the people who don't want to work. And that's a different ball game altogether. But the people who have worked all their lives and have only got what they have, from paycheck to paycheck, that's not because they haven't tried. It's because they just haven't had the good fortune that many rich people have fallen upon. Like, for an example, they might come from a rich family. Their family might have had plenty of money to put them through a good education. And someone who works in a factory all of their lives, they've probably worked a lot harder, but for a lot less money. And in the Philippines, what I've noticed here is the rich mix with the poor. You see it, someone with a lot of money who's got a lot of land will employ people here, and he will come and see them and talk what he wants doing, and they will have a drink together. It's not high looking down at the low, whereas we do in the West. Certainly in England, it's very rare you will get the rich mixing with the poor. It just doesn't seem to happen. But here it does. Do they look down on the people with no money here? I don't think so. I've never seen it and I've never experienced it. But what I have experienced here is the rich tend to keep the prices low, like the cost of labor low, because maybe they don't want the workers that they have getting a higher salary and working somewhere else. This is just my observation that I've made here. And I think most of the best people that I know are on the same level as I am. Now, what class would I put myself in? Well, certainly not higher class, certainly not middle class, working class. I come from a working class family, and I think when you do come from a working class family, you will have a broader spectrum of friends, whereas you in the high class, you have the high class friends, and I find them all superficial. I've mixed with people with money, with a lot of money, and it's all superficial. It's all comparing. Compare what you've got. Compare, what I've got. What car you were driving, what car I'm driving. What car I'm going to buy next year, where I'm going to move to in a higher class new house somewhere. This is what they talk about. Whereas people like me, we talk about everyday things, not about what I've got or what I'm going to buy or how much money I've got saved, how much money I've got invested. This is the difference between, I would call, real people and people who are superficial just because of wealth. People who are very rich normally are very superficial and they think about themselves. So they would tread across anybody to get to where they want to be. Someone like myself, no, and also people with no money or less money tend to be the most generous. They tend to be the most generous people out of all. I've seen it here with these Filipinos when they haven't got a lot of money, but they will share what they have. And I tend to do that, not just in the Philippines, but, when I was in England, my friends would come round and, they were waiting for their salaries, and I might not, like have been waiting for my salary, but if I had more than them, I would give. And I think this is a big difference between people like myself, comes from just a working class, not middle class, working class. And people who come from middle class and above, is they tend to keep all of everything that they've got, meaning they tend to become greedy. And we all know that being greedy is a disease, because the more money you save being greedy and the more money you make, the more money you want to make, and you become tight. So this is why I think in the Philippines you don't see that many ultra rich foreigners here. You'll see a few probably, and they probably will not mix with the local Filipinos because they probably look down on them, like they would look down on people from their own country with less wealth than them. The people who come to the Philippines, the foreigners who come to the Philippines that I've observed and that I've looked, my throat's on fire, sorry people, is the people who've got their pensions and they might have a bit of savings and they doing okay. And they tend to get on better here than the rich people. The rich people probably wouldn't even come to the Philippines. The ultra rich people, why would they? Unless they've got some kind of investment here and maybe taken advantage of the low labour rates and the low rentals of their offices and things like that, which happens around the world, doesn't it? With even Japan now, Honda, they've got some factories now in China, which has been overseen by the Japanese workers, but again they are being built in China. The Honda motorcycle, the XRM, and I think more motorcycles by Japanese manufacturers, because they are taking advantage of the cheap labour and the cheap rates. So you can't blame that. That's business. That's profit. But I'm talking about kind of individuals, people. And there's someone that I know, and that's where I think I'm basing this content on, is they've got money and they look down on everyone. And when they come to your house, they look around just to see what you've got. You could be talking to them about something and they're not really listening to you. They're just looking around and seeing what you've got and seeing what you haven't got, basically looking to see how wealthy you are, because people who are wealthy, they can base your wealth on your assets or your material things. Now, I've never been material. Assets come and go. Your assets are to do with the luck that, or the work that you've been doing. You lose your job. Most people in the West lose their assets because they can't afford to keep up the repayments if you don't already own the house or the car. The car could be on HP finance. The story that I'm trying to get across is the best people that I've met in my life, in my 50 odd years of life, have been people like myself who don't look at someone and think, oh, like I wish I was doing well like that. No, It's you get together, you have a few drinks, you don't compare things, In fact, you talk about your problems. Oh God, I've got to wait for my paycheck next week or next month, but you don't dwell on these things. It's life. This is normal life, because you got to think and this is a misconception that many people think of England, especially Filipinos. They think that England is a wealthy country, like everyone lives, in luxury. And in fact, we all know, who comes from the West, that that's untrue, because what they perceive on the TV, or what they portray on the TV, or what they look at is, God, look at those lovely buildings. It's not everyone in England who lives in them kind of buildings. You could go 500 yards away or 1,000 yards away from those really posh places, and then you'll see the real people, how they live, and the struggles that they are experiencing. This is why I like the Philippines, because they don't class anybody here. I know some people here, not many of the Filipinos, who have got a lot of money. They live in 10 million peso houses, which is a heck of a lot of money for here. In the UK, it's not. You can, it'll be hard for you to buy a decent sized house for 10 million Philippine pesos. So here they don't really look down upon you if you haven't got money. I've seen them help. My neighbour here, he had a motorcycle accident, and his employer, the guy I'm talking about, he was in construction, and he had a motorcycle accident. He's got a family, and he couldn't work, and his employer came round and he sorted him out financially until he could get back to work. Didn't want the money back or anything like that. He come and gave him money so he could take care of the house and feed his kids. Now, I thought that was brilliant, and he kept on doing that. And I think the man I'm talking about, who had the accident, was off work for about 4 months because he damaged his chest, couldn't breathe properly, and all that. The guy who was employing him just kept coming around, and I said, take your time. And I think he even took him on a vacation when he felt a bit better with his family, just to take him out of the doom and gloom that he was probably feeling. You wouldn't really get that in England, or you might get it to begin with, but then the longer you stay off work because of your sickness or because of the accident that you had, they would probably get tired of you and get somebody else. Well, this guy didn't. He just waited and waited until he's better, and now he's back at work now, for the guy that I'm talking about, who was helping him out financially. He's boss, or as they call it here, bossing. So these people who look down on these less fortunate, I've got no time for them whatsoever. Like I said, the guy that I used to know, used to come around the house, he got a bit of money, and he used to look at what I've been doing, at what furniture, honestly, like this, looking around, looking at the decoration and all that sort of stuff, the paintwork. And my house is still in progress, and it was then. It was more in progress then than now. And you could see that he was like kind of thinking, he hasn't done much more. He mustn't have much money. And it wasn't to do with that. It was to do with, as far as I'm concerned, there is no rush. I'm in the Philippines now. It's Philippines time, and I've adapted to that way of life. Time in a social aspect of things doesn't mean a lot here. When you're working, you got to turn up on time, and you got to take notice of that. But in a social aspect of things, I'm not trying to race to get my house finished. It'll get finished when it's finished. And this guy just kept coming around and looking, and he'd just turn up sometimes with his wife. He'd turn up. I thought, oh God, here he is again, And now they don't come around. But it was definitely, they kind of look at you as, you haven't got much money. Yeah. And comparisons. I hate that. I really hate that. And people like that don't seem to last long in places like this, because they cannot understand the Philippine way of life. They think that, well, why aren't you working today? realizing or not realizing that it's raining. They can't work on a construction site in the rain, or they don't work in the rain. But they think lazy, lazy, you should be at work, you know. Construction work here, guys, is very, very hard work because, especially here in the countryside, in the provinces, everything is, it's all handball. There is no machines to help them. You know, when they are unloading a lorry with sacks of concrete, you know, there's no forklift and a pallet to take it off. They on their shoulders, and they might have to carry it. Don't forget, here there is no paths as such. The paths here are just paths where they've just walked through, and they've just created a path. So like it could be like a muddy path, and they might have to carry this 4 or 5 houses down and around the corner and further down to dump it off. It's not just straight from the road to the house on the street. And they work bloody hard. I watched them. It was the same as when they were doing my house here. And that's why I was giving them a bit extra money. And they really appreciated it, incidentally. And I thought, my goodness, if they were to see how they work in the West, we don't know how lucky that we've got it. Now, I can't use that as a comparison because we were born there. So we were born in the countries where we got it more easier. Our salaries were larger, but there again, the cost of living was larger. The poor people here seem to have a better time. They laugh, joke, they drink when they have the money. Maybe they drink with money they can't afford to drink with, but what the heck? There's a guy across the road from me. Every day he comes back from work, and the first thing he does is put his karaoke on and sings all for about half an hour. And I said to him before, I said, "You sing every day?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "It makes me feel better. It makes me forget about my problems." And I thought, what a brilliant way to be. It makes me forget about my problems. He said, "I turn it off and, you know, I feel good." So having money doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't. It makes your life a lot easier. I made a video when I made a lot of money. And I did make a lot of money over a short period of time. It didn't last, but I made that money for a number of years. But I didn't change my friends. I had the same friends I had all through. And we had a bloody good time. I shared what money I made with my friends, and we went many places. Yes, I bought a couple of nice cars, but that money didn't last. But while it did, we had a bloody good time. Not just me, but my friends. And we had a bloody, bloody good time for years. And because I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I've had to work for everything that I've got. And people like us will always have these people who have a lot of money who will always look down upon us. I don't care. You can look down at me. Sorry, babe. This is the virus that we've all got. So that's it. I just thought I'd make this video because I see a lot of it in the Philippines. Rich people mixing with the poor people and helping them out. I like that. Not like in England. Not like in England. So people, if you like the video, subscribe, share, hit the notification button, and all them kind of things. Thank you, people. Wherever you are, have a bloody, bloody good day. Bye-bye. One last look at my little garden. Look. There we go. Look. Thank you. Bye-bye.